Welcome back, guys. Another unfixable motorbike apparently. So VMAX, don't see too many of these anymore, do you, these days? Oh, hang on, my compressor's making a hissy sound. Can you hear that? Fucking hell, that's annoying. Why are you doing that? Oh, I see. It's emptying itself. Sorry. I'm easily distracted. Look, squirrel. VMAX, the story is, it's stood for ages, and then they tried to get it going, couldn't get it going at all, and then his mate has had a go at fixing it, and they've had the carburetors off it and cleaned them apparently, and it basically runs like dog shit. I will show you if I can. It's sort of warm. I just had it running to see what it was like. So full choke. It revs up on choke and sort of sounds all right on choke. But then often V4s sound all right even when they've got a bit of a miss when the revs are high. Won't go down that rabbit hole. Can you hear that? I don't know if I get the mic closer. It's coughing through the airbox. So I knocked the choke off. And it's sort of on 3 cylinders. Yeah, it's not very happy. And then if you try and give it throttle, you know, it's sort of can you hear that? It's trying to rev, but when it was cold, it would die immediately when you gave it throttle. So I think what I'll do is, rather than boring you with it, I'll just time lapse getting the carbs off. Fairly sure it's carburation. Let's get the carbs off, get them on the bench, and then we'll reconvene on the bench. Right, happy days. Okay, that was reasonably straightforward. Although my spider senses are telling me that these carbs haven't been off in a long time, which is contrary to what the customer was telling me about his mate taking them off and looking. I don't know, my spider senses were like, nah, these haven't been off. Just, you can tell the way the dust is sort of settled on everything, how tight all the clips were on the pipes and the inlet manifold rubber clampy things. You know, how hard they were to get out the inlet manifold rubbers. They haven't been off in a long time, I don't think. Anyway, so we're going to get the float balls off and have a look inside. They're a bit of a pain in the arse, these, in that, and it's a bit of an odd setup. There are not many setups like this in terms of carburetors. Before you can get the float balls off, you've got to split them apart, which is not normally the case with a, you know, if you've got an inline 4 or something and you get the carbs off, you just tip them upside down, you can get the float balls off immediately. But with there goes me compressor, stand by. Sorry about that, very professional. Where was I? You've got to split them from one another to get the float balls off, which can be a bit of a pain in the arse. They're not too bad though. There's a bracket on like this on each side, and there's some linkages. If I do that, they're going to piss fuel out everywhere, aren't they? There's a linkage down here for the choke. There's a linkage underneath for the throttles. So it's not too bad. And they can stay in pairs, obviously. They've just got to be separated this way. Does that make sense? Anyway, let's get float balls off, stop talking, and have a look inside. I'm hoping green and furry, and we can just, you know, it'll be a straightforward clean and a few little new bits. Right, onwards. Right, fast forward 20 minutes, half an hour. Everything's completely stripped now. It's not too bad. I did find quite a lot of, that's the contents of one of the float balls, so quite a lot of silty stuff. It looks like there's a little bit of water in amongst that as well. And then also, you gotta love it when people use gasket sealer on float ball gaskets. so that never helps, because it's just not resistant to fuel, and it flakes off and ends up getting blocked in various places. Anyway, it's Friday evening. I'm going to leave these soak now over the weekend. I might come back in the workshop over the weekend and give them a bit more of a chooch with my carb cleaning stuff spray, and then Monday morning we'll rinse everything down and make sure it's all clean, and reassemble with a few new bits, some O-rings, float ball gaskets, bits and pieces, and then on the bike I'll compression test it, which technically I should have done first, but I'm barely convinced it's a carburation problem. Compression test it, put a set of plugs in it, put the carbs back on, set them up, and hopefully job's a good one, but we'll find out then. See you later. Okie dokie guys, so a few days have passed because I needed to wait for some parts, gaskets for these jet holders, a few O-rings, a couple of little rubber noggins that I was missing. I had most of them but not all of them, so ready to go together, all washed off, all clean. So that's that. So I'm going to assemble these and get them back on and see how it runs. There's one thing I was thinking of off camera. So these things tend to suffer with vacuum leaks. Vacuum leaks were a thing back in the day, these gaskets here, so I'm a little bit... The thing is, if they're not leaking, I don't want to disturb them. This is for those of you that don't know, this is the V-boost thing. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but that's interesting. Yeah, that would make a good video, probably talking about V-boost. I don't know, I'm stupid. What I should have done is done my brake cleaner sniff test before I took the carburetors off, but like always, I'm in a hurry to get things done, and I should have, that was a mistake on my part. I should have checked for vacuum leaks before I took the carburetors off. So do as I say, not as I do, and if you're chasing carburation problems, before you take the carburetors off, yeah, you can, in one of my videos I talk about lean misfires and checking for vacuum leaks with spraying brake cleaner around. Check for vacuum leaks before you take carburetors off if you're chasing carburation problems. So I'm going to get those carbs built, get them back on, and let's see where we are. I'm also going to, I haven't done it yet, set of plugs and do a compression test. Another thing you should, as I say, do as I say, not as I do. You should probably do a compression test before you start rebuilding carburetors, especially with old stuff with high mileage. Anyway, fingers crossed that'll be... these engines are quite hard to break, so I'm not expecting low compression, and it hasn't been to the moon. It hasn't got massive miles on it, so I'm sure it's going to be fine. Right, stop talking and do some work. Okay guys, thought I'd share this with you, a top tip. I've got a couple of things I want to show you with diaphragms and slides. So getting diaphragms and slides in can be a little bit of a pain in the arse, because getting this diaphragm to sit in the groove of the carb body and fight with a spring, get the cover on, it can be a bit of a pain, can't it, to get everything to line up, and you very often, if you're not paying attention, you can trap the diaphragm. So one little trick you can use is to use your finger, lift the diaphragm up, lift the slide up, and almost always the way that the diaphragm sits in the carb body, it's more likely to not move out of position as you put the cover back down. Does that make sense? And then I wanted to show you something else. Top tip time. I've discovered this. So these diaphragms, let's get this in shot, they look absolutely fine. You'd think, at first glance, you'd think, well, there's nothing wrong with that, that's fine. Look at this. If we can get this to come out on camera. Torch, bright torch. See that? It's perforated. Basically, the rubber is coming off the... It's bad there too, look. But with a naked eye, you wouldn't see that. Luckily, I've got some diaphragms in stock for this, so it's not a big drama, and I can change them quite easily. But yeah, pay attention. Diaphragms can cause you all sorts of issues. Right, onwards. This is the only diaphragm that's like that, by the way. The rest of all the other three are fine. and they're £35 each, so I don't want to change all of them. The guy's on a bit of a budget, but swap this over, get the carbs back together and get them on the bike. Happy days. Okay, carbs done. Compression test next. I've got one new diaphragm in. The other three are pretty good. No light comes through when I do the torture test. And I just want to try and keep the cost down as much as humanly possible for this guy. So they're ready to go on. Compression test next. I've just pulled the plugs out of it already, and the plugs are brand new. So I won't be putting plugs in. I mean, they're not brand new. They're clearly being used a little bit when they were trying to get it to run properly. But yeah, again, for the sake of not adding cost, I'm not going to put a new set of plugs in, given that they're barely used. Compression test. Okay, so top tip, when you're doing a compression test, obviously you haven't got your HT leads connected. It's always good practice to immobilize the coils. Some bikes will start, if you turn off the engine kill switch, you can still crank the engine, in which case, happy days. If you can't do that, if it won't crank with a kill switch in the off position, try and disable the coils somehow, because you're stressing the coil quite a lot by... Of course, you could have a spark plug on each one and earth a spark plug, that would be fine. But if you can, just disconnect the coil plugs are easy to get to on these, so just disconnect the coils and then it's not an issue. Rightio. What's that? Ooh. A good 160, that's fine. I'm going to need to charge the battery on this, I think, before I try and actually start it for real. This is the last one. Happy days. They're all a good 150 psi, so nothing wrong there. Right, carburetors on. Right, okay guys, carbs are on. Airbox is actually just resting on at the moment. Anyway, just wanted to balance the carburetors. I've started it already, but it starts a lot easier. Coughing back through this cylinder. See how they're so far out of balance? That's likely a symptom of, we split the carburetor bodies and the linkage has gone back in a slightly different place. Let's balance them, probably get the gas analyzer in it and do the idle mixture, and then get the air filter in, get everything tight, and let's see what it's like, because it doesn't seem particularly great at this point. I've done my sniff test with brake cleaner around all the inlets. I haven't got any vacuum leaks, so that makes me happy. So we got compression, there's no vacuum leaks, the carbs are clean. Probably at this point just a bit of setting up needs to be done. Yeah, I'll bring you back in. Let's balance those carbs, get the air filter in, get it back together, and I'll bring you back in. All right guys, so pretty happy with that actually, and now it's got a bit of heat in it. Rev's nice, comes down to a nice idle. I think the idle mixture might need a bit of a tweak, but let's get the air filter in and get that all buttoned up. And yeah, I think we might have won. Of course, the proof of the pudding is in the riding, isn't it? So let's get it together and we'll maybe do a road test with a camera and stuff as well. It's a long time since I've ridden one of these. Might be a fun road test. Right, catch you in a bit. Okie doke guys, hopefully you can hear me over this row. So just got it out on the yard, running it up to temperature. Seems nice actually. Got the gas analyzer in it, well, the AFR meter rather. Idle mixture's pretty good. It's about stoic at the moment, 14.5 to 1, somewhere around there. It's about perfect. Mixture screws have ended up about 3 turns out. So put the 360 camera on it and go and have a ride, and then hopefully we're done. Okie dokie guys, let's see how it runs. Runs perfectly on the bench. Ticks over nice, starts, revs. Question is, will it rev cleanly Cool, that camera's shaking around a bit today. Hopefully you can see okay. Lovely day. Freezing cold though. Luckily it's dry so it's not icy, but first proper frost this morning when I woke up. Which reminds me I need to drain the water out of the boiler in my camper van before that causes me shit. God, blimey, it is cold. God, it's a long time since I rode a VMAX. A long time. It's comfy. I forgot how comfy they were. It's like a nice sort of knees up. Yeah, I quite like it. Oh, little cough in the airbox then. Oh, it's got some beans. Watch out for the ice. Fucking hell, sliding around then. Oh yes. Gonna come back down to a nice tick over for me. Sounded a little bit offbeat then. It's difficult with V4s. They you'll know what I mean if you've done anything with V4s. They just sound different, obviously. Let's just give it some rice up this road a bit. Make sure it revs clean, and that'll do that. That'll do, rather. Just let those cars go a bit so I can get on it. Oh, there's another bloody car coming now. Come on now. It's actually ticking over quite nicely. I don't know whether you can, about 1100 RPM, it's just got a nice burble to it. Right, okay, before this next car comes. Either that was like 3/4 throttle. The tyres are old and absolutely rock hard. Freezing cold roads. What I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna do my full road test lap. I'm gonna pull over here and I'm gonna do a U-E and I'm gonna go back because I'm fucking chilled to the bone already. Oh, fuck it. Sure this car won't mind. Right, okay. Chase the learner! Holy fuck. Hang on, I think I want an indicator not flashing. Look at that repeater light on for the indicator. The other side, yeah, look at that repeater light, that's flashing, and that's flashing fast the other side. Oh dear, I can see the front one's working, it must be the rear one. Well, that's that, guys. Another little sort of behind the scenesy one with a road test at the end. Let me know if you like this sort of content in the comments. And if you haven't already, do the whole subscribe thing. Please do the subscribe thing. Really trying to get my subscriber numbers up. And then I mentioned it, I think, in one of the other videos I've just done. I don't know whether you've seen that or not, but I talked about our Discord group, which is basically, it's like a chat room if you don't know what that is. If you don't know what Discord is, you've got to become a patron, $1 a month. And then you get access to the Discord. It's all about fixing motorbikes, not really much about riding motorbikes. Yeah, we'll share service information. There's is it a suppository? No, that's something you stick up your ass. A depository? Fucking hell, what's the word? There's a place where we can all upload service manuals and stuff, and we all get a login and a username and stuff, and you can access all the information, and that's starting to grow a little bit, so that's quite cool. And you get that as part of, you know, being a patron and being on the Discord. Anyway, I'm waffling on. See you on the next one.